We've just had today's Forged Aeternum and the community Q&A, and I have to say that New World players are not happy for one simple reason, and that is because it simply excludes anything to do with the expansion, or anything major to do with the expansion. So let's jump in and talk about what they actually mentioned, because there is actually some interesting stuff there, and most of it I'm actually happy to see. One of the things that they did was that they sort of play acted a question a little bit, if I'm honest. Dave basically said, oh, that trophies are staying, and you'll only need the max trophy when you're doing the max mutation and M3. Now it's sort of like acted a little bit, but I think this basically means that instead of having 10 levels of mutations, we're probably going to have 3, with 3 being the max. The normal expedition will be like a very easy sort of story-based mode, and then it'll be like easy, medium and hard. That's obviously a good change. We sort of knew it would be coming, we didn't know how many levels it would be. Today it sort of suggested that the answer will be 3. If you've ever tried to do like an M7 in a dungeon that nobody's currently doing, it's an absolute nightmare, and the whole progression system sort of falls down because of that. I think making it just 3 will basically consolidate the plays a lot, and it will actually just feel a lot better in general. A very good change. As well as that, trophies are staying, as I mentioned. I'm not really a huge fan of trophies, simply because it's basically, you can basically pay with gold and get a passive buff. The acquisition is sort of interesting for some farmers, but beyond that, if you were rich or you like RMT'd or something, you can literally just get the gold, buy the trophies, set it and forget it. Yeah, I don't think it's a good system, but they're staying, so if you do want to farm them, crack on. The trophies that are in the game are basically staying and they're not getting consolidated. Now the next change that they spoke about was a huge change to basically crafting and the overall progression system. Now it was basically at the end, and it's actually a tease of the next Balance of Power video. Now I'm not sure it will be a Balance of Power video because that's normally about PvP, whereas this Balance of Power is going to be about PvE. But basically before they gave that like teaser away, they said that there will be some huge changes. You're going to be able to like control your crafting and stuff like that. Some big changes are coming, and they're going to talk about that this week, probably on Wednesday. I'll be watching that on Twitch as well with all of my beautiful, lovely cult up legends. Don't be a jabroni, don't miss it. Now at the very end, the reason I wanted to sort of mention it at this time, they spoke about umbral shards. Now it was strongly implied that umbral shards may literally just be going away, because what they actually say is that gear is going to drop at the highest like maximum gear score. So in the current system, if like you were doing an M10, gear would simply drop at 625. Maybe an M5 would maybe be like gear score 610. Obviously I have no idea. So whatever the new max gear score is in the expansion, the end gear that you're going to drop is just going to be at the max level, which might be like gear score 700 for an M3. Maybe for an M2 it'll be 690, something like that. Obviously I have no idea, I'm just making up numbers. Now they may have a system like umbral shards, so that if you have a 690 gear you can get it to 700. I have literally no idea. That could be the case, that might not be the case. Umbral shards literally could just be out the door. Sort of suggests that shard selling may also be out the door, but what might happen is people will just sell chest runs and you just go in and get all the, you know, the elite chests at the end. Interesting, maybe buy to shard sellers, and massive changes to progression and gearing. As soon as we know more, I will deliver that to you. One thing that they did mention is the PTR. Now it's very likely that the PTR will come at least after next week at this point, or at least not this week and next week when we actually have the dev update, because the dev update about the expansion I'm guessing was scheduled for last week, but it's actually going to be coming next week. Either way, what they said about the PTR is that the PTR is going to be up for the expansion, but it's actually not going to be as long as normal. They're going to try and make it shorter. I take this to mean that we might be getting like maybe like a weekend or 5 days or something like that. We may basically have like a beta weekend, which I would be very happy to see. I think that's probably a good way of doing things. You sort of want to keep things fresh, but in the same breath you also need to actually test things, because we don't want the game to be broke. So yeah, I think that makes sense. And then the next two questions that I want to talk about are basically all about PvP. One of them was about desync. Now, if I'm honest, I didn't really like the answer when it came to desync. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, in patch 2.0.2, in Outpost Rush, you basically get desync all the time. Normally it's just people moving across the screen and sort of like stuttering a little bit, but there's also desync in combat and that kind of stuff. Now the stuttering, if you actually change your bandwidth mode to low instead of high, that actually has anecdotally helped me and helped others, so you might want to give that a try. However, you shouldn't have to do that. Now, the reason I'm saying that I was a little bit displeased is they didn't even mention the general stuttering. They spoke about weapon-specific desync, mainly the hatchet and maybe another weapon, which they said they will fix, but they're actually going to fix in the expansion. And I personally don't like the fact they're waiting for the expansion. I think this issue probably should be in a very high priority, and I would have loved to have seen it addressed a lot sooner. They did speak about resilient being removed as well. So we all know now that resilience is out the door. It's it's not coming back. Well, it might actually come back, but it's not planned to be in the expansion. And then the question was, well, what's going to happen to the crit resistance? Well, the crit resistance is going to go to your armor equip load. So basically you're going to have different crit resistance depending on if you're heavy, medium or light. And my assumption right there is that the heavy armor is going to have the highest amount of crit reduction and the light will obviously have the least. Basically giving them another tool to balance around. So I'm pretty happy with that. It sounds okay. Obviously that could in theory make light a little bit too weak, but I'm guessing it's going to get balanced in other ways. Pretty exciting nonetheless. All of what we actually learned in today's Q&A I was pretty happy with. However, players are getting a little bit fed up with the we can't talk about that right now, we're not ready to discuss that. And what they really need to do is stop getting themselves in these situations where they have to say that. Either the questions that they pick or something like that, they need to just set expectations a little bit better here and make it so that they don't have to say it. Now, I'm still personally a little bit disappointed with the fact that the expansion could be 30-40 days away, and you know how much information we know? Not very much. I think the marketing for this is being handled really weirdly. At this point, they should probably just go ahead with what they said, do the dev video next week and just try and pump out the marketing through Twitch. I don't think they should really be trying to like discover a new way of marketing. Just do what you've been doing. It sort of worked for Brimstone. I'm sure it'll work. I personally just think it's a bit weird. Like Amazon don't necessarily have the experience here. It's not like they're Blizzard. I don't necessarily know if they can know for a fact that they're going to get away with it, but they do have Twitch in the back pocket, so they probably can. And players simply aren't happy because we want news, we want information. Like if it's 40 days away, like we want to know what we're getting. It's not crazy. It's not crazy to want that. And there'll be information on Wednesday. I'll be doing a video on that, of course, but you can watch me on Twitch. And there'll be the dev update next week, which of course I'll be summarizing here on YouTube and again, watching it over on Twitch. On a personal note, it's actually good news for me because I'm at a wedding that I could not move this Saturday and I was very worried that the PTR would be Thursday or Friday. So on a personal note, I'm very happy. But the rest of the players, less so. I've not yet changed this to Patreon. If you want to support me, being a Patreon is now the best way. Big shout out to all my previous YouTube members though. I do really appreciate you guys. I'm going to try and get you all over onto Patreon for a variety of different reasons. If you want to come and watch this madman on Twitch, and if I'm honest, I'm a little bit weirder on Twitch. And I don't want to say I'm more entertaining on Twitch, but you know, it's different. I'll just say that. You need to probably come and find out. So come over, give me a follow. I've done the stream for the day, but I'll be live tomorrow. Link is in the description. Make sure you click it. What you should definitely do though is have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.